Jai Hind. Jai Hind. I don't think I need this.
No.
On
Recording.
Yep.
Guys, I think they're just recording for the camera there. You don't need, you can just put it on the table.
Okay.
It's just for the camera.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a matter of great honor and privilege for me to be invited here, and I thank Honorable Mr. Bob Blackman, Lakshmi Kaul, Shweta Raghavan and the rest of the team who've done all this. I carry with me a little part of India, and I carry with me the spirit of the Indian soldier. Today, I will tell you what happened in Jammu and Kashmir. I will tell you about the role of the Indian Army, and I will tell you why we call it a moral army. There were more than 550 states, princely states, that acceded to India. Kashmir was one of them. And as Madhuji has rightly brought out, it was done as per an act which was passed in this very parliament here where we stand today. 9 weeks after independence, Pakistan attacked India. First, in the month of October, November, it sent in tribal lashkars. The Orakzais, the Yusufzais, the Afridis, they came. They stopped in Baramulla for 4 days. There were nuns there. They raped those nuns. They killed little children. That was the time when the Maharaja said that it's better to accede to India. He signed the treaty that you've all seen. And then 2 battalions of the Indian Army were airlifted. 1 Sikh and 4 Kumaon. I'm honored to say that I'm from the Kumaon regiment and I'm wearing the regimental tie today. It's a special occasion. And in defending Kashmir, in defending Jammu and Ladakh, Major Somnath Sharma was awarded posthumously India's first Paramveer Chakra. I am from Major Somnath Sharma's regiment. The war continued for over a year, and then there was a ceasefire. The line where both the armies stopped, eyeball to eyeball, was called the ceasefire line. And after 16th of December 1971, in which Pakistan was not only defeated but humiliated with 92,000 prisoners of war, the name and the nomenclature was changed from the ceasefire line to the line of control. This is the most heavily militarized zone on earth. I've had the unique honor of serving there, and I will tell you some stories. We must also know that the Shimla Agreement clearly points out that the issue between India and Pakistan is bilateral, and so it shall remain. Now, thousands upon thousands of soldiers have been martyred defending Kashmir, defending India and Kashmir. What exactly does the geography of Kashmir look like? The geography of Jammu and Ladakh. It starts from the Samba sector and moves right up to Partapur Base Camp, 102 Brigade, which is Base Camp Siachen. And from there the glacier starts. A lot of people say there is 7 lakh Indian Army, and what is 7 lakh Indian Army doing, 700,000 soldiers doing in Kashmir? First of all, the Indian Army strength in Kashmir is not more than 2,70,000. Number 2, the Kashmir border is a little different. We face China in Ladakh, and we face Pakistan in Kashmir and Jammu. We have a 760 kilometer long, very volatile line of control, and that line of control has to be defended. For 70 long years, the Indian Army has stood between India and misfortune. For 70 long years, and many wars, people have laid down their lives to defend the motherland. And today, on this solemn day, we remember them. In 1989, Kashmir exploded in everybody's face. And it was a direct result of the first so-called Afghan jihad. In 1979, the Russian forces crossed the Amur River, crossed over into the Soviets crossed over into Afghanistan. They left in 1989, fueled by Stinger missiles and American dollars. It was that time that President Ziaul Haq launched Operation Topak. Phase 1 of Operation Topak was Kabul. Phase 2 was Srinagar. In the initial days, many of you would remember a group called the JKLF, the Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front. That was the first and the last group which had a Kashmiri name. Today, which are the groups that operate self-admittedly, especially in Kashmir? We have the Lashkar-e-Taiba, we have the Jaish-e-Mohammed, we have the Harkatul Ansar, we have Allah's Tigers, we have Al-Badr, and we have non-terrorist but highly militant outfits like Dukhtaran-e-Millat, which is headed by Arya. Now, which of these names that I've taken are Kashmiri names? They're all Arabic names. They're not Kashmiri names. Kashmir is the only state in India with its own flag, its own constitution, and its own penal code. And yet, when you have street protests, when you have stone throwing, and when you have terrorist activity, what you see is ISIS flags. You do not see the flags of Kashmir. You do not see the flags of Jammu and Ladakh. You see the flag of the Islamic State. And this is where India and UK must partner. We're facing the same people, we're facing the same threats. This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is not about some candy floss idea of freedom or azadi. You're facing Nizam-e-Mustafa. You are facing the Islamic State. And it's already made inroads into India. I have asked this question before, and today I ask this question again. People say children are injured by the armed forces. What kind of a parent, what kind of a mother or father would put a 5-year-old in front of a military bunker? Why would a person do it? I wouldn't put my child, you wouldn't put your child in front of a military bunker. They do it. They do it because overnight they wish to create martyrs. A shortcut to martyrdom. I have met soldiers in 92 base hospital in Badami Bagh Kant, Srinagar, who tell me stories that when they were admitted in civil hospitals, especially Jammu and Kashmir police, when they were admitted in civil hospitals, they were assaulted by crowds. The crowds barged into OPDs. The crowds barged into ICUs, pulling the oxygen masks, pulling their IV lines. Yes. They had to be evacuated. When a protester is bleeding, hit by a pellet gun or hit by a bullet, when he's being evacuated in an ambulance to be taken to the hospital, the ambulance driver is beaten up or killed. And then the person is left there to bleed and die, and when he dies, you have a funeral the next day. 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh people. And suddenly, you have a martyr. And this whole hoopla, this whole tamasha about Burhan Wani, who created this? How many people knew Burhan Wani? He was known in Kashmir. He was known as a womanizer. He was known as a man who hid behind social media accounts. He killed village elders. He killed sarpanches. And one day they tracked him down and they killed him. Because treason is not a pardonable offense. If you lift up arms, you cannot take up arms against the state and expect mercy. There is a famous quote, a famous hadith, which I love to quote and I repeat it here today. शमशीर के साए के तले जन्नत पलती है. शमशीर के साए के तले जन्नत पलती है. Paradise is under the shade of swords. If you truly love your motherland, if you truly love your country, you must be willing to defend it with violence. You cannot defend India with peace. Peace is what we want, but you can negotiate for peace from a position of strength. You cannot go to the Wagah border. You cannot light candles and hope and pray that Pakistan will not attack. They say, why don't you vacate the Siachen Glacier? We vacated Kargil in good faith. It cost us 527 good men. Some of them were my friends, some of them were my brothers. Major Padmapani Acharya, 2nd Battalion, the Rajputana Rifles, was my senior in the academy. He was awarded the Mahavir Chakra. And there were many like him who were martyred defending Kargil. And this problem with Pakistan will continue again and again and again. Why will it continue again? Because unfortunately we are not solving the right problem. Terrorists come inside India, we kill the terrorists. But where do the terrorists come from? Those terrorists are literally manufactured in Rawalpindi. They are made in Pakistan. And that is the problem. We are not solving the root cause of the problem. Now, in my heart, as a soldier, in my heart, I have no malice. I have no enmity with the common Pakistani. I look at him as a victim of his own circumstances. I have spoken to many Pakistanis face to face, over emails and phone calls. And they seem to me like us. They have the same concerns. But the problem here is the Pakistani army, the Pakistan deep state. So whom do we speak to? We have Modi ji going and speaking to Nawaz Sharif. And who is Nawaz Sharif? So they say that Nawaz Sharif said we must have peace with India, and then he came to London for a bypass surgery, and the joke is that after the bypass surgery he had a change of heart. Now, what happened? He was paid a visit by the chief of the ISI. The chief of the ISI quietly came, said hello to him, and the entire stance of Nawaz Sharif changed. And overnight, the pigeon became a hawk. And that is what we are dealing with. India will not speak to Rawalpindi because democracies speak to democracies. And there is a certain protocol involved, but the Americans don't believe in that. So when the Secretary of State goes, or the Secretary of Defense goes to Islamabad, they will make that 20-mile pilgrimage to Rawalpindi and pay regards to the army chief, because they know exactly how Pakistan functions. I'm not saying that India should speak to the Pakistani army chief, no. But we must recognize the problem for what it is. It is a problem created by the Pakistani deep state. Again, Pakistanis have stopped demanding basic infrastructure. They have stopped demanding accountability, except for a few politicians. Because they have been fed this opium for the past 70 years. An opium which says that one day there will be 24/7 electricity. One day there will be water in the taps. And one day you might beat India in cricket. But that is going to happen once Kashmir is ours.
Everything.
So you sacrifice everything for Kashmir. You put your children's future on the line because one day we will have Kashmir. I want to tell you for the record, even heaven forbid, 1,000 times heaven forbid, if they get Kashmir, they will sell it like so much real estate. Because for them, it is nothing but real estate. They have sold off Punjab, they have sold off Sindh, they have sold off Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. They will sell off Kashmir as well. Today, I go to Kashmir. Many of the people whom I speak to, Pakistanis, they speak about plebiscite. We are all aware that plebiscite has 3 stages. You want plebiscite? So be it. Let's have it. We are not afraid. But don't put the cart before the horse. You have to vacate Indian territory. The second point is, I cannot make a deal with you in 1947 and hope to encash it under the same circumstances in 2017. A deal is on the table only for a certain period of time. Kashmir, Jammu, Ladakh, Baltistan, Pakistan occupied Kashmir. These are legally Indian territories. This is our land that they've taken. And it should be our solemn resolve to get this land back. Because we call India Bharat Mata. We say India is our mother. If you cannot and will not defend your mother, whom will you defend? Now, there is this amazing narrative out there about the freedom movement in Kashmir. हमें क्या चाहिए आज़ादी? हमें क्या चाहिए आज़ादी? What do we want? We want आज़ादी. हिंदुस्तान 1947 में आजाद हो चुका है. No country becomes free twice. India is a free country. What we are faced, allow me to reiterate, what we are faced with on our doorsteps is the caliphate. Yes. There is proof of the caliphate in every corner, every mosque, every madrasa of Kashmir. There is proof of the existence and flourishing of the caliphate. The Sufi shrine culture of Kashmir is dead. वो जो थर्सडे की रात को चादर चढ़ाते थे वो खत्म हो गया मामला. Now what you have is the Wahhabi strain of Islam, where people come back carrying this virus from abroad and try to inject this virus into our bodies there. And the Indian Army defends. I have seen images of, in front of my eyes, I've seen the Indian Army literally lifting Srinagar on its shoulders after the flood. Literally lifting that entire city on its shoulders. I will give you an example today. You must have heard of that incidents of EDI Pampur, where over 150 employees were there and it was attacked by Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba and HM terrorists. And I would request you in your future conversations not to call them militants. They are not militants, they are terrorists. Under the outer and inner cordon of the Indian Army, the Jammu and Kashmir police slowly and slowly moved out the hostages. There were approximately 130 to 150 of them. Once that was done, there was doubt in the minds of the Indian Army whether it's all clear or do we still have people inside. So, 2 officers went inside to tackle the terrorists one-on-one. That day, we lost 2 officers. We must remember them today. Captain Tushar Mahajan, 9 Para Special Force. Captain Pawan Kumar, 10 Para Special Forces. One was 26 years old, one was 28. We lost these 2 very fine officers. They could have very easily put a missile inside that building. And heaven knows there are many countries who are willing to do it. One Hellfire missile and the building comes down. But then it takes us to another question. And before I lead into that question, I want to tell you that one of the people rescued by the Indian Army and Jammu and Kashmir police was the son of Sayyid Salahuddin, the head of the Hizbul Mujahideen and the chairman of the United Jihad Council. That is why I say that the Indian Army is not just a powerful army, it's also a moral army. We are not strong because we have weapons, we are strong because we are right. And in this morality lies the strength of the Indian Army. After the unfortunate attack on Army Public School in Peshawar, in which 130 innocent children were massacred by the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, there was no judge, there was no jury, there was no court. Within 24 hours, F-16 fighter jets took off. 203 millimeters, 155 mm. Helicopter gunships, they took off. And they flattened entire villages in North Waziristan because the Pakistani army should be seen in the eyes of the Pakistani people as to be taking action. They killed their own people because they wanted to show how tough they were. What weapons do we use in Kashmir? Let me tell you. How many of you have seen images of a CRPF Jawan standing with a broken shield and a lathi in his hand? And they speak about human rights violations in Kashmir. Have you seen the video of the CRPF Jawan, Vicky Vishwakarma, being slapped, kicked and abused? What about the human rights of the soldier? The Indian Army does not operate in populated areas in Kashmir. There is no Indian Army in Srinagar, except in 92 Base Hospital and Badami Bagh area. There is no Indian Army. There is no Indian Army in Baramulla. There is no Indian Army in Anantnag. It's all in the outskirts. In every single operation, there is a representative of Jammu and Kashmir Police who goes. Fake images of mass graves from Syria are floated on social media saying that this is Kashmir. Are there human rights violations in Kashmir? Of course there are human rights violations in Kashmir. Yes, in the past we have done wrong. But I can tell you, we have taken stock of the situation. There are officers and Jawans who are serving long sentences in jail. People who have been stripped of rank, stripped of pension. They've been thrown into prison. That is what democracies do. There is accountability in the Indian Army. You must have all heard about the case of Major Gogoi.
Yes.
Suddenly in the Indian media, it came down to the dignity of the individual. So he said that you have tied a man on the bonnet of the Jeep. And then they say Kashmir is a war zone where hundreds of thousands of people are being killed. Pakistani statistics are fantastic. So in a war zone where supposedly hundreds of thousands of people are being killed, have been killed, half the state has disappeared into thin air, alright? Yet, your heart breaks for a guy tied on the bonnet of a Jeep. What could Gogoi have done? There is no written manual that this is how you will respond. Officers are supposed to take initiative. That is what officers do. And that is the teaching of the Indian Army right from the time the British left India. That is what we were taught. That officers are supposed to take initiative. That is what officers do. Now, maybe what he did was not the right thing. And I accede to that. But it wasn't wrong either. Try to put yourself in the shoes of a young army officer surrounded by a howling mob of 1,000 people with acid bottles, with Molotov cocktails and with rocks. You know, they say hindsight is always 20/20. And we can always say that, no, I could have done it better. But I don't see any solution. I think he did the right thing. Finally, I conclude by saying the Kashmir problem is not going away anytime soon. But suddenly stone pelting has almost stopped in the valley. Why? You know why it has stopped?
Demonetization.
No, demonetization it stopped for I think 2-3 weeks.
NIA rates. Paisa.
NIA raids. So the government said, we are not interested in those who are throwing stones. We are interested in those who are funding them. They put them in jail, and it's all nice and peaceful.
Calm.
In Kashmir, there is no stone pelting, but there is still a lot of poison.
Yes.
There is a lot of poison because there has been indoctrination over the past 25-30 years that needs to be sorted. And we are doing it in phases, and hopefully in the future we will see a better Kashmir, a more vibrant Kashmir, and hopefully without, pardon my language, without the nonsense of Article 370 and 35A. Jai.
Thank you, Major. I suddenly have lost my voice because I feel very, very small. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you from all of us. Thank you. I know you have a lot of questions. Yes. Thank you. Wait. Patience.
Especially for Major, just
Wait,
in a dinner suit.
Now, I look around the room and I see a lot of warriors. I see a lot of warriors. And Rami Ranger, who is our dearly beloved in this country, and we love him, we respect him for everything he's achieved and everything he's done for our communities and for this country. Rami ji will be the first one to ask the question because he also has to leave shortly. Thank you.
Thank you.